Welcome to the June 22nd meeting of the Village Historic Preservation Commission. The purpose of this commission is to approve certificates of appropriateness for new construction or major work, and to do so by conducting hearings and findings of fact when applications come before us. Our mission is to take no action except to preserve and approve that which is congruous with the special character of the Village of Pinehurst Historic District. The special character to be preserved is that and enhanced is that of a growing and vibrant village. My name is Jim Lewis. I'm chairman. On my right is Christine Dandino, Jim McChesney, and over is Tom Schroeder and Judy Davis. We have a quorum, so we can begin. I want to point out this is a quasi-judicial hearing. So anyone desiring to testify must be sworn in, and we're required to consider only facts presented in this hearing. The proceedings are video recorded. I'd like to point out another thing. We always reserve the right to get smarter, and all of us recently attended some training conducted by a lawyer from the UNC School of Government, and we learned a couple things, and I'd like to point out just for everybody's purposes. One, our commission actually made up of 7 members. 2 are absent today. A majority vote is 4 out of 7. And although 2 are absent, the majority is still 4 out of 7. That's state law. Now, logic would say, well, there's 5 of us. Wouldn't 3 be a majority? No. As a matter of fact, in these circumstances, in a quasi-judicial hearing, so therefore, what's relevant about this, for your purposes, is it takes 4 votes to be a majority. Hence 4 votes to approve an application. Intuitively doesn't sound right, but I'm sure that's what the state law requires. Also, I've been chairman here for about 2.5 years now, something like that. Or is it 3.5? 3.5? Yeah, anyway, and I've tried to always be pretty liberal about allowing folks to speak. What the heck? It's easy. But the fact is, we're only allowed to consider facts, and they have to be relevant to the case in question. So I'm going to have to get a little bit stricter about letting folks run off on issues that don't have anything to do with what we're doing. And so if you get up to speak, my still inclination is let you say what you got on your mind, but if people get off on a topic that is not relevant to what we're doing or stuff that we can't consider, I'll probably have to call that to your attention. Anyway, the first order of business here is to, by the way, when I was introducing folks, I forgot to introduce Alex Cameron, the village planner, and Gwendy Hutchison, who does everything else. Okay. So first of all, the first order of business is to approve the minutes of our May 25 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at those minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Jim. All those in favor? Aye. Minutes are approved. Next item is to just take a look at the normal maintenance and minor work that's been approved by staff. We have no role to approve that, but it's a courtesy. We always like to look at it in case we had a question. Anybody got any questions on that? There being none, we will move along. Okay. We do have 5 cases. We have a fairly busy agenda, so we'll try to be expeditious in our use of time, but just a courtesy, I'd like to let you know the order. You probably already know. But the first case we'll consider will be, I'll just give you addresses, 70 Page Road. Next will be Village Green Road East. Village Green Road East. Yeah. Next will be the case on 30 Village Green Road East. Okay. And the 4th case will be the 145 Dundee. And the 5th case will be Magnolia Road, the steam plant. So I just want you to know that in case you're late on the agenda and you want to sneak out for something, you're welcome to do that. Okay. First case, Alex. Alex, do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Now tell us about the first case.
Okay, our first item for public hearing is COA 17-41, and this is a request for a front porch addition to the home at 70 Page Road. This property can be identified as Moore County Land Record Key Number 000021628. The contractor on record is Sandhills Home Services, and the property owners are Paul Blake and Charles Helbling.
Okay. Who is here to speak on this case? Come on forward, please, sir. And you are,
Charles Chuck Hillman.
okay. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to this commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please, have a seat. Okay. I need to do some full disclosure here. As a general rule, we don't go out and engage the homeowner or property owner in conversation, but I did today. So I need to let you know why and what was conducted. The drawing that was presented in this case, my initial reaction to it was inadequate, that it didn't give us enough information to allow us to properly consider the application. But by the time we were able to get that information back to you, sir, I realized it was kind of late for you to do anything different. So I wanted the commissioners to be aware there's some question about whether or not this drawing is sufficient. And so for that reason, I stopped by, we spoke, because I wanted to understand what are you trying to accomplish here, and to let him know that there was some question about whether or not his drawing would be sufficient. All right? And I told him, and I'll tell you right now, I propose to let him go ahead and explain what he's trying to do verbally. And then I'll ask all the commissioners, do you have enough information to vote on this case? And if everybody says we've got enough information to vote, we'll vote. So that seems like the fairest way to try to accommodate what you're trying to do without asking you to come back next month with a more detailed drawing. Okay. All right. So tell us, as best you can, what exactly you're trying to accomplish
Okay,
there. We do have the drawing you gave us.
Okay. What I have, as you see, is a roof line for the main part of the house. When you look at the house on the left, where the roof line is sloped towards Page Road, and on the right is a garage with the same slope. And in between there is a center front door. And there's a brick pad.
All right, I'm sorry. We need you to speak closer to the mic, please. Thank you, sir.
There's a brick pad in between those two structures that is measured 6 by 6, and there is no cover over that pad. And what we want to do is put a porch or an overhang where the roof is in a different, I don't know how to describe, I'm not an architect, but a different way than the other roofs go. The two on each side, one on each side goes this way, the other one is an A-frame with 2 columns to hold it, just to cover the front 6 by 6. It's not extending out, and it will tie it right into the existing roof.
Share what you told me, which I should do anyway. You currently have an overhang of about this much over the front door, right?
Right.
Okay.
Just-
And then you have some steps or a little brick
One
area
brick
that
step up.
extends out further.
Right.
And your intention is to try to extend the cover so that if anyone's approaching your door, they're out of the rain
That's right.
for another several feet.
6 feet, only 6 feet out. Right.
But a portion of that is actually going to be embedded back into the existing
Roof.
roof. So the portion that extends beyond the current overhang is something like 3 or 4 feet, or is it 6 more?
The total for 6 feet out.
6
from
more
the-
feet
from
out
the
from
existing
the
house.
existing, okay. So what we're dealing with is 2 roofs that face the street like so,
Right,
and you want to insert one in the middle like so.
correct. It would eliminate having a flat roof.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I took my measuring tape and figured out that, I'm assuming that you want to anchor the post at the base of at the first step-up level,
At the corner,
and it'll be square with that,
exactly.
okay? And that's the only vertical
That's the only, right,
post that'll be there, and then it's just a roof over that, and you're going to integrate it in with the roof
Exactly.
existing roof that's there.
exactly.
If I understand it correctly, you'd be creating 2 new valleys back on what is now the,
Existing roof.
so you'd be doing something with water there.
Exactly. We're,
But those roofs, the new roof, if you're proposing, does not connect into the roofs on either side. The water will come off the sides.
You're going to create 2
Yeah,
valleys.
yeah. Anyone else have questions? Okay.
Using your drawing that you submitted, there's a thing that says, it's got a line, 2 arrows, and says beam. And then there are a bunch of horizontal lines. My question is, when I'm standing directly in front of your porch and looking back at the front door, is the part underneath the roof on the new porch going to be blocked off, or is that wide open and all you're going to see is the pitch of the roof that goes all the way back?
It's going to have the same siding as the existing other roofs on the sides, which is the, again, I don't know the material they use, but it's the,
Going to be siding up on where the posts are then?
That'll match.
and it matched the existing
Thing is what?
lap siding. Lap.
My drawing says open there, so that's just wrong, right? Okay.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, was
I'm
what does
sorry.
the open mean?
That looks like it's crossed out on mine.
What kind of roof will you have on this, I mean ceiling, excuse me, not roof, ceiling?
The same as the existing overhang all the way around the house.
Okay, so you'll have a siding type,
Yes.
have a ceiling, it won't just be
It'd have
open.
a ceiling.
So let me ask a question to the commissioners. Do you have adequate information about this case to be able to vote on it?
Got one more question, if I may. Yeah. It looks like, and tell me if I'm wrong, again, going back to your drawing, you've got just under that clapboard piece underneath the roof, a dimension called 16 inches. I guess that would be the overhang.
Exactly, on each side.
Okay, what is the overhang on the house? Does that, in other words, has the house got a 16-inch
It does.
eaves?
It does,
Okay, so this is then matching the same as the eaves on the house?
absolutely. Yes,
I just wanted to understand
right.
whether it matched or didn't match what the house was looking at, because that's one of the things.
I will acknowledge that would have been difficult to draw if you had a professional architect doing it, I think, in order to have it be very clear what you were trying to do. We'd have still been asking these same questions, I imagine. So let me ask my question. You got one, Judy?
One more question. So the columns are going to be fiberglass or wood?
There is PVC, is that a PVC product? Or it's a fiberglass? It is not wood.
That listed on your drawing is fiberglass.
Fiberglass, sorry.
I mean, I don't know, I'm not trying to put words in
It
your
is
mouth. I'm
fiberglass.
just-
I'm not familiar with materials. This is not my drawing, so
Okay.
it's fiberglass.
You have information on that, Alex? I know you've spoken to the contractor. Fiberglass is a pretty generic term here. For example, there's a product called AZAC, which is a type of fiberglass, but it's a much more high-quality material.
I can tell you they're $500 a piece.
Probably a pretty good indication you're probably dealing with AZAC. Okay, all right.
They're square around.
Where?
Square. 7 1/4 on a side.
Okay, you ready for my question? Everybody, are you satisfied you have sufficient information to vote on this case? Anyone object? Okay, that being said, would anyone like to offer a motion? Oops, I'm sorry, I failed to ask the audience. Does anyone in the audience have any evidence to offer on this case? Okay, now, does anyone have a motion?
I have a quick question. So can we approve fiberglass based on the, I'm sorry.
Well, we can. Now, that's why I was fishing for more information about the
And
nature
I
of this.
apologize, I'm being very vague with this. This is not my drawing, but it's not, it's what's on every home, every other house on every other street in town. And I don't know the product.
No,
I'm-
no, that wouldn't go, there is no such thing as something that's on every house in town.
Not in this,
That product
not
doesn't
in this
exist.
district.
Well,
I have one other question, and the question's of Alec. Given the materials that you now have, one of your jobs when this is all over is to look at this and say it's built in accordance to what this commission has directed. Do you feel that you have enough information to be able to do that?
I think there's a valid question regarding the material for the columns, for me to be able to go back and do an inspection. The siding of the, on the proposed addition here is pretty clear to match the existing lap on the house. The roof material is pretty clear. I think the only thing left is the columns then.
And, you know, and is there any reason you didn't want wood?
No, there's not. I mean, it's just what the contractor recommended.
Think it's a cement fiberboard, or do you think it's fiberglass?
I don't think it's fiberglass. I think that terminology is misread on there, misprinted on there.
Then we don't know what it is. We know that it's not wood, and you don't believe it to be fiberglass. Is that a fair assessment of what you've told us?
Yes. But I am not a builder.
I'm
Right,
not,
right, right.
and I'm not trying to say you
And
are or
I
aren't,
don't-
and I'm
and
not
I
trying to
don't-
criticize you in
Right.
any way either. I'm just trying to understand
Right.
what your testimony is, so that I understand it, so that I can vote it.
I think what you mean is it's, you know, what a lot of the fences are made of, fiberglass that way, that's not wood, but it stays the same color forever.
Okay.
Perhaps, as we get into our discussion, we can talk about conditions for this?
Yeah, I think so, probably.
Would,
So Alec, other than the material on the post, then you feel that you could adequately inspect it to the
Sure.
standards we set? Okay. That's my question.
I misspoke, by the way. The AZAC product I spoke of is a vinyl composite. It's not fiberglass at all, and it's a very high-quality and expensive product. So your $500 price tag would suggest that might be what you're talking about. But we don't know that, and you don't either.
I don't.
And that's a product we would approve.
Okay. So with that understanding, is that a consideration if we agree to use that product?
Either that or would.
Okay.
But that could be a condition of approval. Okay. Or I don't know that they make a fiber cement column post like this. We do approve fiber cement as well. So we can work that into a condition if we wish. But the term fiberglass makes us nervous.
I'm not totally.
Yeah.
I'm-
Okay. So, anybody else? Anybody want? Okay.
going to move to make a motion to approve it with the condition that it's wood?
I think you could say wood, or if they make such a thing as a fiber cement, I don't either, or a AZAC. AZAC is a brand name, but AZAC-like product, okay?
Or AZAC-like product?
So are you going to make the motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay, go for it.
I move that we conclude that the proposed project case of number COA 17-041, if constructed according to approval plans, is congruous with the character of the Pinehurst Historical District based on the findings of fact, with the condition, when do I have the condition? The end?
Not yet,
Okay.
not until you add it.
Okay. Okay. This request is considered to be a major work because it involves a new addition and is not considered minor work. The proposed addition will be inconspicuous. The proposed addition will be of similar scale and character to the existing building. The proposed addition will consist of compatible materials and colors to the existing building. The roof line of the proposed addition will blend with the original building. The proposed addition will not be taller than the original building. The proposed addition will have foundations and eaves that generally align with the existing building. And I move that we add the additional request that it be made of AZAC or wood.
And therefore,
Oh, yes, sir. And therefore, that the Historical Preservation Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness approving the proposal as shown in the approved plans, subject to the following conditions. Okay, that it has AZAC or wood. The columns are made of AZAC or wood. I move that the Historic Preservation Commission conclude that the proposed project case.
You're done.
Do I need to do that?
you already did that.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
My first time reading one.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Second. Got a motion, more or less, from Christine.
All right. Get
that motion.
And a second from Judy.
Trying to be fast.
Any discussion on the motion? Oh, the only point I would add to your motion is that I don't think it's correct to say that it's not conspicuous. Okay? I think it will be conspicuous. Okay? So, no discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Sorry to put, your COA is approved. Sorry to put you through all that. My advice to you is next time bring us a more complete drawing.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Alex, what do we got now?
Okay, our next item for public hearing is COA 17-42, and this is a request for a terrace addition to the rear of the home, new windows, new patio, and a porch extension to the home at 50 Village Green Road East. And this property can be identified as Moore County Land Record Key Number 000-20098. The applicant is Boness Custom Homes, and the property owners are Allison and Stuart Paul.
Thank you. Now, who's going to speak for this case? Hello, come on forward, please. Would you raise your right hand? Okay, tell us your name. Okay. Ms. Anderson, do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please have a seat. Okay, Ms. Anderson, you are the architect, right?
And today I'm the architect, and I'm also representing Boness Construction.
Okay. And you're authorized to represent both the property owner and Mr. Bonus, I guess, okay? All right. I think we've all looked at your drawing. I think we've probably all been on site, so is there anything you'd like to add that you think might help us?
I think we tried to be clear and straightforward in our, both in our design and in our application. The main difference, well, I included our demolition plan to demonstrate that we're removing and we will not put a porch back in that location. We're going to take the facade and the plane of the exterior wall back to what is the exterior wall at the back of the porch. And the windows that we are changing primarily along the back of the house, but also it wraps around to the north side. Due to some interior renovations, we're having to lift the sill height on a couple of windows, and so we've opted to install windows of the same character but slightly different proportion. And I think that's all that I really have to say. The piece that refers to a porch extension is there is a porch on the north side of the house currently, and it's in pretty bad shape. If you stand back and look at it, it's a decided slope on that piece of the house. So what we would like to do is remove that and rebuild it and allow it to extend over a little farther to the west to provide covering for the rear door. About sums it up. And then we also did include a conceptual landscape plan. And if you've got any specific questions to that, I've got Matt Ramsey, the designer here, who can answer questions relative to that.
I do not.
Well, maybe Mr. Bonus, I think that he spoke with Mr. Gould, and he said that all that he wanted to see was a concept plan. So maybe he felt like it did
And
not
that's
need
fine.
to
I
be
just-
part of the application.
Wanted you to understand that we don't have, I don't have, and I'm
Okay.
seeing some nods from some other people, don't have landscape plans, so
It's not required that we do, but
No,
but we
I'm
don't,
not-
okay?
All right.
saying we don't have them.
So, when you demolish that porch in the back, it's going to, the back of the house is going to just be left, the floor of the porch that's there today is going to be left?
No, we're going to remove that, and we're going to put back in a raised deck or a terrace adjacent to the house, and it won't be as wide as the existing porch, and it will run over, because we've introduced doors on the flanking wings coming out, so it will, it'll be as wide as the house is, but not as deep as the current porch. And I failed to mention that there is a low-pitched roof that was built over what we're calling the family room in the back of the house. We'll probably be taking that roof off and going back with a different roofing material, probably flat-seam copper, something that is more conducive to a couple of things. The pitch has to be fairly flat, so we want a good material up there, but we felt like the copper was certainly in character with that. The cottages
We'll
in
need
the
a little more specificity about what your intentions are with the roof covering. You say copper is one option. What would be your other option?
Well, our other option, I don't think we're going to take it, would be a high grade, like an EPDM or a membrane type roof. But what we intend to do is flat seam copper.
Like so.
That's what the drawing says.
So we will act on your recommendation for copper. Okay, all right. Should you, for whatever reason, decide you want to change it at a later date, I think you can come back to Alex, and it's something he could probably approve on his own, most likely. But we're going to act on copper as your recommendation today. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. There being any comments from the audience? Relevant comments? Okay. Okay. Do I hear a motion? Anybody? Okay, go for it. Get your microphone a little closer to you, Jim, please.
I move that we conclude that the proposed project case number 17-042, if constructed according to approved plans, is not incongruous with the character of the Pinehurst Historic District based on the following findings of fact. The request is considered to be major work because it involves, excuse me, a new addition and changes to roof lines that are not considered minor work. The proposed new window and door openings will not be visible from the street. The proposed windows and doors for the building will retain their original size and dimension. The panes, mullion, muntin, and all hardware of the proposed windows and doors will be the same as or similar to those of the original windows. The trim for the proposed windows and doors will match the original trim. The proposed roof change is consistent with the original house. The proposed metal roof is copper. The proposed addition will be conspicuous and on the rear elevation. The proposed addition will be of similar scale, color, materials, and character as the existing building. The roof lines of the proposed addition will blend with the original building. The proposed addition will not be taller than the original building. The proposed addition will have foundation and eaves that generally align with the existing building. The proposed design change to the porch will retain original architectural characteristics. The proposed material will retain historic porch characteristics. The proposed addition will be inconspicuous and on the rear elevation. The proposed addition will be of similar scale, color, materials, and character as the existing building. Roof lines of the proposed addition will blend with the original building. The proposed addition will not be taller than the original building. The proposed addition will have foundations and eaves that generally align with the existing building. And the proposed colors for the home are appropriate to the historic building and district and are in the Village of Pinehurst color palette. And therefore, that the Historic Preservation Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness approving the proposal as shown in the approved plans, no conditions.
Your second?
I second it.
A motion by Jim and a second by Tom. Discussion on the motion? By the way, I think you said that some of the new windows will be slightly larger than the existing one, that the windows you're replacing. But of the same,
But of the same mutton
Same
pattern.
design.
okay, just one.
And they are wood, if that's.
Any discussion, any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one's opposed. Your COA is approved. Wonderful house. Wonderful house, I might add. I wanted to buy that house 20 years ago, and somebody beat me to it.
There are other ones.
Well, I bought another one, but that's the one I wanted.
What's your,
Okay. Yeah.
That's it. She said she wanted it.
Okay, Alex, what's next?
Our next item for public hearing is COA 17-43, and this is a request for an addition to the home and a new accessory dwelling at 30 Village Green Road. This property can be identified as Moore County Land Record Key Number 000222283. The applicant and the property owners are Greg and Amanda Grimshaw.
Okay, Mr. Grimshaw, come forward, please, sir. Raise your right hand, give us your name. Do you affirm that testimony you shall give to the commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please have a seat. I think I have another full disclosure here. Mr. Grimshaw I've been acquainted with for some time, but his wife, Dr. Grimshaw, also happens to be my dentist. I don't think that relationship warrants my recusing myself, but I wanted you all to know that.
Jim?
Thank you.
I should be recused. Okay. Anybody in the audience think I should be recused? Mr. Grimshaw? Okay. Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah,
therefore I will not be. Therefore, I will not be recused. All right. Okay. So we have your drawing.
Yes, we finally made it here.
Tell us anything you want to tell us that you think may not be apparent in this drawing.
Well, just due to our growing family of 2 boys and a girl, we need some space. And so the one addition to the house is going up over the garage, which is a flat roof garage right now, expanding the garage to 3-car with a upstairs 2 bedrooms and a Jack and Jill bathroom. And then the separate building is just a cottage, kind of a multi-use space, bunk room, fitness room, living room. So about 800 square feet on the cottage.
Okay. I'll start. I was bothered by there's no measurements to speak of on these drawings. I mean, nothing says how tall or how big or anything is. There is a scale. It took me a while to find it, but there is a scale. And the scale says 1/8 inch equals 1 foot. If that's the case, I brought my ruler. That would suggest that your main house is only 24 feet tall. So I believe your house is taller than 24 feet.
Like the ridge line of the roof?
Yeah, the
24
very peak of it. Two-story house with a roof usually, but I
It
was
is a gambrel style
Yeah,
roof, so
yeah.
it is somewhat, flat at the top, so two 10-foot ceilings, 20 feet plus the roof line.
Well, the reason I'm pursuing that, it's important, in fact, it's a requirement, that that your addition on the garage does not exceed the roof line. It's no taller than the other roof line, and your drawings make it difficult to be sure of that. Can you assure us that the roof of the addition is not taller than the main house?
I can. It will tie in with the
Okay.
existing ridge
Okay.
line, the highest ridge line of the house.
Now, with regard to your cottage you're adding,
Yep.
likewise, it cannot be taller than the house. Now, I happen to observe that the ground, when I say it can't be taller, I mean when it's all finished, the ground slopes up back there. And my concern has to do with that if you build it on top of that higher ground, that it still not exceed the height of the house.
Yep.
Follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, the backyard's pretty flat. I don't know if you've walked the
Yeah,
property or
I
not.
walked back there, and it looked to me like back where I think you're going to put the cottage, the earth slopes up somewhat.
Right at the end of the driveway.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
But by the time you put in foundation, as long as you attend to that, Jim, that
yeah.
should
Well,
be fine.
So,
we kind of got burned on that on the previous case, and I want to make sure that when we say it cannot exceed the height, I'm talking about when it's all finished, and the foundation should be on line with the main house anyway. It does not exceed the height of the house, the main house. How about, while I'm on the roll here, best I could figure out where you're going to put the cottage, right behind the cottage there, between the cottage and the golf course, are two big magnolia trees.
yep. Though they are a thorn in my side because of the leaves that fall down
Yeah.
10 months a year, they will be staying. There is adequate room to put the cottage and leave those trees there.
I understand the problem of magnolia leaves, but some things are just worth having, no matter how much trouble they are.
Well, we have about 12 of them on the property, so.
Okay.
Those are
Those
two,
are my questions, okay?
yeah, and my questions too are about the trees that we would have to potentially be taken down. But if those magnolias are there, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, there's a hedge, but that will go. It's like a 4-foot type of privacy hedge.
I did want to make one point of clarification in regards to the scale. The scale is only listed on the plans for the guest cottage. They are not listed on the proposed garage
Yeah.
addition, so that may
Right.
be,
Bring that same
Right,
thing. If there
right.
is no scale that I can find, somebody can tell me where it is.
Yeah, it's not,
Well, according to that scale, if the scale were accurate, your cottage is only like 23 or so feet, 22 feet tall, which I'm really questioning the scale, if you want to know the truth. But our biggest concern is obviously it doesn't exceed 35 feet, which is the limit. And as long as it's not taller than an existing house, it's not that important to us exactly what it is. But
Yeah, I think our whole goal of this cottage is not to be, as you drive in the driveway, to be a, obtrusive, building. Our discussions with Mark is to, have this a smaller scale than the house to keep it in proportion.
comments or questions?
Follow up on what you're saying, I think you said, and I'm not sure, but I'm going to ask the question of Ally. When you're ready to inspect this, if you go up there and were to stand on the peak of the existing roof, can the cottage roof appear any higher than that roof, irrespective of how tall the building is? Do you understand what my question is?
I do. I think the question is of scale. there is nothing that says, that I'm aware of, that it cannot be taller than. It's not an addition where you do have a finding of fact. This is a accessory building. It does say it needs to be similar, with compatible terms of material, scale, color, style, and texture. So, however, if that were to be a condition or something placed, yeah, I mean, I guess
Otherwise, you wouldn't.
Yeah,
it would be hard to make that determination.
Now, to be specific on that, just for everybody's information, there's nothing in our current guidelines that says specifically that an accessory building cannot be taller than the house, main building.
Well, actually, here it says the proposed accessory dwelling will be compatible with a portion of the main house and be smaller in
Right.
scale.
Yeah, but it doesn't say specifically that it cannot be taller than. It does say it has to be compatible with, et cetera, et cetera. And it does say the foundations have to be at the same level. And so my reason for inquiring on that was just to get you to say that you don't anticipate that the cottage will be taller than the main house. Okay. I sometimes point out at the beginning of these meetings, just because many of you know, the committee has been working for months on revising our guidelines, and we have to always be sure we remember we're working with current guidelines, not our new guidelines, because our new guidelines have not been approved. You may have read about that. But but our new guidelines will be more specific on that very point. But right now, our current guidelines do not speak to that issue. Okay?
One note, I was just looking, I have my scale. And if these are proportional, then it is like a little bit smaller than the main house in terms of
Yeah,
height.
definitely, yes. I checked that myself. Any other comments or questions? Anyone from the audience? There being none, do I hear a motion?
I'll take it.
Judy?
I move that we conclude that the proposed project, case number 17-043, if constructed according to approved plans, is not incongruous with the character of the Pinehurst Historic District based on the following findings of fact. This request is considered to be major work because it involves a new addition that is not considered minor work. The proposed addition will not be inconspicuous. The proposed addition will be of similar scale and character as the existing building. The proposed addition will consist of compatible materials and colors to the existing building. The roof lines of the proposed addition will blend with the original building. The windows in the proposed addition will be similar to those in the original building. The proposed addition will not be taller than the original building. The proposed addition will have foundations and eaves that generally align with the existing building. With regard to the accessory dwelling, the proposed accessory dwelling will be located in the rear yard. The proposed accessory dwelling will be compatible with proportion of the main house and be smaller in scale. The proposed accessory dwelling will use traditional roof forms, materials, and details that are compatible with the home. The proposed accessory dwelling will blend with the existing structures on site and with the local historic district. The proposed accessory dwelling will be compatible in terms of materials, scale, color, style, and texture, and therefore that the Historic Preservation Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness approving the proposal as shown in the approved plans.
Here a second.
Second.
Got a motion by Judy and a second by Christine. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Nobody said no, so it must be unanimous.
Thanks, Jim.
Your COA is approved. You want your plan back?
Sure.
Thank you.
Have room for some more children, Greg. Okay, Alex. Next.
Okay, next item for public hearing is COA 17-44, and this is a request to change siding, addition of a breezeway to the garage and in addition to the existing garage, side lights and fencing at 145 Dundee Road. This property can be identified as Moore County Land Record Key Number 000021108. The applicant is Brian Kennedy, and the property owners are Robert and Cynthia Kennedy.
Okay, who's going to speak? Mr. Kennedy, come forward, please, sir. Raise your right hand. Tell us your name. Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give this commission is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please have a seat. Now, for the benefit of the commission, especially since a couple of you may not have been here, we previously approved a COA of this property. And Mr. Kennedy's coming back with some additions as well as some changes he wants to make from the previous approved case, I believe. So tell us what you want to do now. Now, we have your drawings here.
Okay. Previously was approved for a wooden fence, and I just made some size changes to the fence itself. I'm not sure technically if it's considered a picket anymore because the material would be roughly 5 1/4 inches wide. It's a high quality material called perennial wood, and I have a sample here to pass around, let you guys take a look at it.
So if it's not going to be picket in the sense it's not going to be, will it be pointed at the top like a picket fence, or what would be the configuration of the fence? I mean,
Similar to this, just flat on the top, flat on the sides. And I'm planning on shadow boxing.
so you're talking about a shadow box fence with that material?
Correct. Yeah,
So
but
instead
only a 4 foot tall.
of a picket fence, it's going to be a 4-foot shadow box fence?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct? Okay. And, yeah, sure, we'd like to see it. What do you call that product? What do you call that
The
material?
perennial wood.
Perennial what?
It is a wood product, or is it some kind of composite?
It is wood.
Well,
That product is pre-finished, and that will be the color that it will be as well.
we expect shadow box fences to be stained or painted, and that comes already stained, I guess. Okay.
Usually screw fastener or nails, or what do they recommend?
Stainless steel.
Regarding the fence, talk to us a little bit more. How far forward does that fence come relative to the existing house? What I'm getting-
Nothing
what-
has changed as far as the configuration of the fence itself that was previously approved. Not sure if I know.
Just
how
the material itself and the type of fence is going
Correct.
from a picket to a shadow box?
Sir.
Short shadow box. Are there any gates or anything in that fence? I'm going to get around to asking you before long. I know that you want to put a garage back there, and I was trying to figure out how you're going to get your car to the garage.
Right. There will be, I haven't decided exactly where the gates will be, but yes, there will be gates, I think, on the front portion. I don't know if you're facing the house from Dundee Road.
Yeah.
That right side, and then on Woods Road,
Okay.
there will be a gate.
Because your proposed garage is going to open toward Woods Road, is it?
Correct.
Okay. Good. I was looking on your
The
drawing
garage
for a
itself-
gate in that fence, and I figured, unless you're going to jump the fence, you're going
Right.
to...
The garage itself is not going to be used to park vehicles on a daily basis. It's just for lawnmowers, trailers, things
Got
like
it.
that,
Okay.
you know.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Is there anything else about the fence? That's it on the fence, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. What else?
Siding, we discovered some issues. We were leaving the existing asbestos siding before. Wasn't really ideal for me. It wasn't what I wanted, but I think we've decided to move on from that. Again, the reason I've showed up today is we found water damage and some termite damage on the existing siding of the house as I was removing some to put new windows in. So as I took away some of the material, I realized that there was quite a bit of damage that I just figured I'd go ahead and remove the remainder of the siding and put something new up. So I just feel like it's a better product, safer to breathe, obviously.
So
And,
tell us about the product you plan to use for
It's
your
an 8
siding.
1/4 inch lap siding. It's a wood product as well. It's got cedar texture to it. Nothing is changing as far as the color of the house itself that was previously approved. But it is an OSB type of material with resins built inside, so.
I'll
Comes
pass
in-
that around, because that's a product that we have not approved previously, I don't think. You say it's a wood product?
It is. It's a Louisiana Pacific Smart Siding is what it's called, and I think there are several other properties within the village that do have that on it.
Think so, huh?
Yes, sir.
Where?
When you say it's going to be the same color, the green color?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a reason why you would choose this product over a regular lap siding of some? One concern I have about the product is it's thin, and it does, when you lap it, it doesn't give the relief look of a regular lap siding, which is a thicker board.
It is considered a lap siding. I mean, it's a 8¼ inch wide. It will be overlapped of each other, so there will be about a 7-inch reveal, which kicks it out an 1¼ inch. So it will give the same look as a lap siding, like a Hardy that you're familiar with.
But is there a particular reason why you elected to use a what is that, 7.5 inch wide board? Let me just say what I'm getting at. I'm not trying to be cute here. I know you removed asbestos siding, which comes in chunks like this. I didn't know if you were trying to recreate that depth in your siding, or?
No, sir. No, sir.
This is comparable to Hardy, let's say the Hardy.
Yes, sir. Very similar to the Hardy lap siding look. It's going to be the exact same look, just a
This
different
is
type of
OSB.
material. It is.
Before I get in trouble for not speaking in the microphone, thank you. In relationship to which it was originally on the house when you got it, this is the same kind of clapboard arrangement, or are we changing the physical look of the building by going to this material as well? That's my question.
It will change. What was previously on there were 2-foot wide by 12-inch deep shakes, shingle type shakes, and they were a concrete asbestos siding, cancer causing, as we know. This,
Kind of old-fashioned asbestos
Correct.
siding.
yeah.
Down
So
to-
the actual look of the former house is changing slightly. However, this will be no different than any other lap siding house that you see with a 7-inch reveal.
Yeah. Well, there's no question you did the right thing, taking the asbestos siding off. I'm glad you came to that conclusion. I'm sorry you found some rot that you had to fix, but what we're talking about here is a material that this Historic Commission has not approved before. Okay, and we are open to new materials. Obviously, there was a time, it's only been, 6 or 7 or 8 years since we started approving hardy plank, okay? This is another step, I think, to the nature of this product. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, how far down the road of substitute materials, substitute over more traditional wood product, are we willing to go?
Technically, that is a wood product, right?
Yes,
Glued wood product.
correct.
Well,
It has the.
yeah, but plywood's the wood product too, and we wouldn't allow plywood.
Right. Oh, I'm not. But I don't know what other kind of product you were referring to, because it
Yeah.
technically is wood and a lot of resins.
What is not is traditional lap siding, that's what it's not. Okay. Well, tell us, while we're noodling over that, tell us about the rest of what you're going to do that's new and above and beyond what previously was approved.
To fit within Pinehurst Code, we've decided to add a breezeway into the garage. Reside the garage, because right now, currently, it's a block siding. We're going to reside the garage with the same material and then add a 20 by 20 addition onto the back of the existing garage. That's for storage purposes mainly, lawnmowers, trailers, tools, etc. All of which will have the same siding as the house.
And
Just for the benefit of the commissioners and for the audience, there's a provision in our current PDO that says that it limits the footprint you can have. Let me get this right. The size of an outbuilding cannot be more than 30%, an accessory structure cannot be more than 30% of the original building. However, there's no such restriction on additions. Okay? So what that creates is a situation where if someone wants to create an outbuilding that's excess of 30% of the original building, if they connect it with a breezeway, it becomes by definition an addition and not an accessory structure. I don't mind telling you, I'm not too proud of that rule, and we want to try to address, because it forces a situation where you have to create a breezeway just to accommodate that rule. All right?
Right.
I don't know if you otherwise would have put a breezeway there. Then again, I don't know if you otherwise could have extended your garage. So that's an issue that we're trying to address going forward. But right now, that's what the PDO is, and that's the purpose, a purpose at least, for putting the breezeway connected out to the garage. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, this breezeway, how are you going to cover it?
Asphalt shingles, the same style, color as the existing house.
So all of the roofs, the garage, the breezeway, and the existing house are going to have all these same shingles?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's, just trying to clarify my mind.
Other questions or comments here?
regard to the new, I think it's called an apartment in the plans and the storage area, it's just going to look like one single building to the casual observer going.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. It will appear to be one, it will in fact be one single building, because
It will.
you're going to cover the whole thing with the same material, right, and the same roof, right? Any other comments?
With the fence, one question about the fence. It says that you shouldn't have the front yard fence taller than 3.5 feet.
Okay.
That the front yard fence should not be taller than 3.5 feet. Do we consider that
But-
corner the side yard?
I think you're only bringing the fence up to basically to the front corner of the house, is that correct?
Not even that far.
Not
It's
even
gonna
that
be-
far?
Yeah.
So yes, yes.
Oh, I
yes.
see, okay.
If he,
To
if
me,
he,
it just seems like a street view. I mean, a street. Oh, okay.
Dundee is the street
but it's
facing
a-
street.
Yeah, but it's a
Woods is
side
a
yard,
side
side yard,
street.
rear yard, and up to the front of the house, it can have as much as 6 feet, in fact.
Would it be possible, one of the things that says that fences over 3.5 feet in height should be screened with planting?
Yes,
For you to put some planting around that so that it's not.
well, there's actually a requirement that any fence over 3.5 feet tall has to be screened with planting.
And I think if it's like a foot, you're not, I guess you can plant in the right of way. Can you do that? I mean, doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for planting. Sorry.
The only proposed change with the fence from the previous application is the material and the style,
Okay.
not the location. And there was also, we recollect discussion and condition about that they will be
That
screened.
was in the original.
Yes.
Right,
in
that
the-
was-
in
that
the
was the-
original
Okay,
COA.
sorry, I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, the original COA addressed
Okay.
that issue. You're exactly right. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. We
So the
don't need to.
location and the planning is
Yeah,
all,
yeah,
was
we
all
don't-
covered in the
Right.
original.
The only thing regarding the fence that's changing is the material and the configuration going from a picket fence to a shadow
Shadow
box.
box.
Actually, the material change is not even relevant because he's just going from a picket to a shadow box. Okay? That's all.
So we're only talking then adding a breezeway, adding, about doubling the outbuilding size,
Correct.
And,
changing the siding
yes,
to the new materials which you've proposed, and then the only thing on the fence would be changing from a picket to a shadow box using the material you showed us.
Correct.
And the
Then-
Did I
color,
leave anything out?
Yes, in the application, it talks about the two side lights,
Skylights,
skylights.
and they were not drawn into the plans, and it's.
Yeah.
it's
Where
kind
are
of
they to be located?
On the right and left elevation of the new addition. If I have-
Doors of the
Primary house?
the garage, so to speak? Or are you talking about that?
I thought it was the
You
primary
approved- You had an
house.
addition approved on the back portion of the house. That's
The
one you're referring
addition
to?
had been approved and has been built now on the back of the house.
Right.
And the skylights that we're looking at putting in would be on the new addition, on the right side and the left side of the house.
Okay. Alex, help me a little bit, because I've worked so much with our new guidelines, sometimes I get, I get confused. Our guidelines require that skylights not be visible from the street, is that correct?
You are correct.
So we cannot, therefore, it would be an exception. Our guidelines would not allow a skylight that's visible from Woods Road.
Would the ones you're proposing be visible from either of the streets?
I would think that the one on the right elevation would be visible from Woods Road, yes.
That's the one over the dining room? No, the
Yeah.
master bedroom.
Yes, ma'am.
The kitchen probably would be fine. That's the one closest to the garages, right?
That's the master bedroom side.
All right,
Yeah.
okay. So the master bedroom probably wouldn't be
The
visible.
master bedroom side probably would not be seen at all from the street.
One of the two of them would be.
Yes, sir. And the only reason is just to allow more natural light inside the house.
And understand the reason.
What kind of skylights are these? Are they flat, or are they raised, or?
They're deck-mounted Velux skylights, roughly 2 feet wide by 45.5 inches, something almost 4 feet, not quite 4 feet.
Roof up?
Probably less than 6 inches.
Alex, you look like you had something.
Another standard under the roof standards is that skylight shall be flat rather than convex.
But it's not, you said it's flat, or it's not convex, is it? Is it rounded?
It's not convex, it is a flat.
It's flat.
Correct.
Well, I guess the point is our guidelines wouldn't allow it to be on the Wood Road side. Okay. I'm not making a motion, but it would require an exception.
Sure.
I'm not so sure we're ready to do that. So that in terms of your application, a condition would be to remove one of the guidelines, I think, if probably.
More question about the fence. I'm sorry to go back there, but is it possible, so we approved this as a picket fence that was open and had more visible views. When we go to a shadow box and we put it right up against the street, it's going to be pretty in your face. For just that one row that's near Woods Road, would you be open to moving it back and putting landscaping in front of that shadow box? Because that's going to be very visible from the street. You know what I'm saying? It's changing material and,
Shadow box is allowed, and a requirement for irrigation, landscaping is,
but there's no room for landscaping in that plan
I will.
along Woods Road.
The Pinehurst Development Ordinance does require a 10-foot side street setback or a right-of-way setback, so it will not.
Okay, so
In
then
fact,
it's just the
it will not-
plan
It will not be up
that's-
against the,
Okay, then I guess it's just in the site plan that I misread it then.
Besides, I think that was addressed in the previous one, wasn't it?
Okay,
The
I'm
planning
sorry,
was
but-
already addressed.
yeah.
Okay, so when I see
I may
this,
be
this is
wrong, I
not the
wasn't
edge
here.
of the street, it's actually, this is the edge of the street.
Yes.
Okay, all right, my mistake.
In any case, the point is that plan's already been approved.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, but if you were changed, well, okay.
Change it, and he's changing it to another style of fence, which is
They
also.
already have it in there.
Yeah, okay,
They're already
it.
on the hook for putting it in anyway.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
okay. So, any other discussion here, folks? It's a key point that we're considering here about the siding. Okay, because, if we approve this siding, we're basically saying this is now an approved siding for houses in the historic district. Yes, sir.
If I may say, I work at Builders First Source as a building
Understand.
supply salesman, and we pretty much have about 80% of the market in Moore County. And that siding is our highest selling product of any siding that we do have. And I would say I do know of at least 3 houses on Woods Road that have that product on it. And I think on Short Road, I want to say over near the park, I can't remember the exact street that it's on, they also have the same siding. So, I mean, it is a siding that has been used within the historic district.
When we're finished, I'd appreciate if you would give me some addresses to point some of that out, because I'd like to know more about that, because in the last 5.5 years, we haven't approved any. And I don't doubt there might be something like that has either been put on without our approval or was on there before. I don't know.
How long has it been on the market?
As long as I've been a salesman there, which is 3 years, but I don't know, it's been around at least 15 years, I would say.
The main reason for going with this as opposed to the Hardy product would be cost?
It is slightly cheaper as far as cost goes. The material actually comes in 16-foot lengths. It's a lot easier to handle. You don't have as much breakage with it. It's easier to cut. There are a lot of, and OSHA has now added several codes or regulations that go with cutting hardy board siding, which this company has not. So,
Well, I should say, by the way, the fact that it's popular doesn't necessarily mean it's suitable for the historic district, okay? Because we're trying to preserve a character, and all I can tell you, in this almost 6 years I've been on a commission, this is the first time that we would have approved this product if we approve it. And if it exists someplace, I'd be curious to know where that is. There's only one house on Woods Road that's been built in a good little while, and that's the one that's under construction next door to you.
Right.
Okay, and I don't think that's being used on that house. I know we didn't approve it to be used on that house.
right.
So I'm not sure where on Woods Road you'd be referring to.
I don't know if it's within the past 6 years,
Yeah.
but it's across the street from me is a house that has that particular siding on it.
You mean the Wolves house? Or you mean the newish house directly across the street? Across Woods Road from you?
Yes, sir.
That house has that siding, huh? Okay, well, enough said about that.
Would you be open to doing wood instead of this? Facet, what?
Okay,
No? Okay.
okay. Do I hear a motion? Anybody?
Sure. I move that we conclude that the proposed project, case number 17-044, if constructed according to approved plans, is not incongruous with the character of the Pinehurst Historic District based on the following findings of fact. The request is considered to be major work because it involves new additions that are not considered minor work and minor work items that were not approved by the village planner. With regard to the siding, the proposed siding for the structure will not be similar in width, shape, and color to the original siding. Breezeway addition. The proposed addition will be inconspicuous and will be on the rear elevation. The proposed addition will be of similar scale, color, materials, and character as the existing, will not be of similar scale, color, materials, and character as the existing building. The roof lines of the proposed addition will blend with the original building. The proposed addition will not be taller than the original building. The proposed addition will have foundations and eaves that generally align with the existing building. With regard to the storage building and garage addition, the proposed addition will be inconspicuous and will be on the rear elevation. The proposed addition will be of similar scale, color, materials, and character as the primary building. The roof lines of the proposed addition will blend with the original building, will blend with the primary building. The windows in the proposed addition will be similar to those in the primary building. The proposed addition will not be taller than the original building. The proposed addition will have foundations and eaves that generally align with the existing building. The proposed colors for the additions are appropriate to the historic building and district and are in the Village of Pinehurst color palette. With regard to the fence, the proposed fence is not wood picket. The proposed fence is compatible with the architecture of the structures on the property. The proposed back and side yard fence is not taller than 6 feet. The proposed fencing will be set back at least 1 foot from the front facade. The proposed fence will be screened with native landscaping on sides visible from the street. The proposed fence will be stained. And therefore, that the Historic Preservation Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness approving the proposal as shown in the approved plans.
With the condition pertaining to the skylight?
I do have an applicable standard that I wrote down
Okay.
for mine, if you would like to
Introduce that
add
to the
that.
findings of
Yes,
fact.
you can,
Yes.
as
And
an
not-
extra item.
Yes. Thank you. Because, yeah. Okay. The proposed skylight will not compromise a character-defining roof and will not be visible from the street.
Okay.
Yes,
And does
that's the motion.
that satisfy the requirement that if we're only approving one, or do we need to have it included as a condition to the,
I believe the applicant has applied for 2.
So the skylight above the master bedroom, should we specify it that way?
I think we need to go and add a condition that it could only be, that the skylight cannot be on the Woods Road side.
So be approved in the plan, subject to placement of the skylight above the residence that is not visible from Woods Road, or something like that.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion by Judy, second by Tom. Discussion. I'd like to say that if we are to approve this siding, I'm concerned about the precedent-setting nature of it, okay? And inasmuch as the previous siding was, what's being replaced was that old asbestos big sheets, like so. We might be able to consider this siding where if someone, in my view at least, if someone were replacing a German siding, we probably would not, we would be not as inclined to approve this substitute siding for a more traditional siding. But what he's replacing is something that needed to go.
Right, right.
Okay, so.
Extenuating circumstances.
But obviously, what I'm trying to do is figure out some way to justify approving this siding, but not getting ourselves locked into approving it for every application we have in the future.
I think we know that, the plethora of contemporary substitutes is only expanding and growing, so we may not always be up to date on what's advisable, and maybe that's, something we should track in some way, shape, or form, but
And I think the other portion,
Talk to the mic, please.
the other portion of that issue is each of these cases is taken on its own merit.
Yeah.
If we approve it on one, doesn't mean that we will or will not approve it on any others. It has to be taken in the totality of what we're talking about. So just because we approve a particular siding in one instance, I don't think means that we've got to necessarily approve it for every other case that goes down, because you have to take all of the remaining issues into consideration on all of these, so you can't,
That
I
is
don't think,
absolutely-
paint with a broad
That
stroke.
is absolutely true, and it's also legally true, okay? And I just was trying to articulate a position that we're doing this for a particular reason.
This case.
Replacing a particular siding that's not necessarily applicable in future cases.
It may never be applicable in another case,
Now-
because we may never be faced with the exact
Now,
same particular issues.
We're committed to being receptive to new materials, okay? And we are. But we want the new materials to be compatible with the special character of the historic district. Okay, that's our fundamental position on new materials, okay? Okay, any other discussion?
Curved edge on both, this is just for sample purpose.
Correct.
In other words, the overlap would be as you would with a normal siding.
Correct.
We could use this as a test to see if how this product looks, in future product. I was reading up on it just briefly here, and it was saying, one of the things is people forget to paint the side, and they overdrive nails. So if we can see this in a good quality installation, maybe it would be, yeah, then we'll know.
And it won't hurt with that issue either, but each of these cases has to be taken on its own merits. So just because we approve it for one case does not
That's
relate
true.
to any other case, because no two cases are exactly the same scenario anyway.
And likewise, the fact that something exists someplace in the historic district doesn't obligate us to approve it in the future.
Right.
And that's just
Okay.
that's
Okay,
just
I
an
got a
issue of
motion, I
law.
got a second. Any other discussion on the motion?
Public comment, Jim?
Yes.
Public.
Comments from the audience? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Anyone opposed? You have to vote. Did you vote? Okay, you get an aye? Okay. All right, it's unanimous. Your COA is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations, good luck what you're doing with your property there. It's going to really upgrade that corner. Here. Who's second that motion? Tom second, yeah. Take it away.
Here's your wood sample. That's very neat.
You're lucky I remembered.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes, I'd like to just,
5 minutes max recess. We will reconvene in 5 minutes, whether you have to be present. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
1 minute's already gone. We got a chair back here.
Because they'll have to pass it around, but that'll be fine. I'll just sit and move here in the corner so they can start.
She'll handle that.
Mr. Rowley, Chair.
For that matter, we can go out in the audience, except we can't ask questions.
This is a fun one. I crawled all over this thing. I was wondering to get bit by a snake, you know?
I go by it every morning, so,
Yeah?
yeah, I walk the dog down there every day.
Oh, do you? Yeah, that's right. Good spot.
Well, the purpose of their presentation, why can't we just move out there and look, watch the? I don't think if we start asking.
Fancy. Fancy. Fancy presentation.
Yeah.
It always bothered me when I was in the audience, I couldn't see what
That one
was
doesn't
actually
really
being
need to
presented.
work. We can invite the audience to come around here and watch this with us. All right.
Yeah. That's fine, yeah.
Okay, audience, that one's working. Move over that way.
I don't like that siding.
I like it better than the,
Wood and water. There's water going in there somewhere. And that doesn't mix.
it looks better than that damn, asbestos.
He's doing it for the money.
That's a good example where if we had different districts, we could say it's compatible with that district,
Right?
Yeah.
but it ain't compatible with the whole district.
I wouldn't put it on my house.
But, no, me either.
But in terms of, see, what I'm coming from is the thickness and the relief you get when you have a board. But the fact is, my house is covered with pine shingles, and they're all,
Really? Yeah.
the old New England pine shingles.
The right way.
I just wonder about the edges, you know, what they're gonna, if they don't paint them. And I think it could swell more than,
I need to slide over here with you for this. You got room?
yeah, it
Jail's
really is
over
a
there.
big,
And so they're cutting them a hell of a deal, you know that.
oh, right, exactly.
That's why I asked him about the
Oh, yeah.
money.
Oh, you know that, yeah.
Sure. Look anywhere you want.
Yeah, fine.
You can look at our screen.
Can you roll it around? Hey, Barbara, don't worry about it. We'll use the audience ones. Don't worry about it.
You can use our screen.
They're the s- Yeah, we can just look at these, we don't need this. Our next move.
Dog and Pony Show.
Yeah.
Main thing is, we want the camera,
I can see it fine.
we want your camera to really be able to catch that.
This is exactly what's in the, here, right? So this is the same as this, right?
Yeah. I noticed that he got him cross-referenced nice too.
The point is,
Yeah.
From
community is interested in watching the video.
this stuff to the colored pictures, you know?
So the, I think I'm,
Leave the
Yeah.
chimney, you're gonna take down the breaching.
so this is what, this is the view you'd see from Magnolia right here.
Yeah, right here, this is very helpful here. This is Magnolia here.
Right.
This is where that shed is, right here. They knocked down.
Are we ready?
Ready?
Actually, we came early to try and get over.
Alex, you want to say
I'd love to.
They need to be sworn in, too.
We ain't got there yet.
All right, we're back in session.
Okay, our final item for public hearing today is COA 17-45, and this is a request for additions to an existing facility, a new greenhouse, smoker building, exterior repairs, window replacements, and demolition of a storage shed at 300 Magnolia Road. This property can be identified as Moore County Land Record Key Number 000-25797. The applicant is Staggert and Chow Architects, and the property owner is Pinehurst LLC.
Thank you. Now, anyone who plans to testify on this case, I'd like to swear everybody in at one time. Anybody else out there planning to speak? Tessie, you going to speak? Oh, anybody else? Okay, well, you two gentlemen both stand. Give us your names. Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please have a seat.
Alan, you can spread out.
Okay. The floor is yours, Mr. Staggert.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the commission for giving us the opportunity to come in here and make this presentation. This has been a very exciting undertaking since we started working on it. We're very excited about it. And it's important for me to tell you that this is a restoration and rehabilitation of a building and a repurposing to another use. And
Barbara, can you hear him all right? A little, if you speak a little louder, it'd help her. Okay.
so, about 122 years ago, I guess it was, back in 1985, or 1895, when Pinehurst was just being developed, they needed power to support lights and mechanical equipment and so forth, as well as the trolley line. And so in 1895, this building was built. It's the original, and it was called the Power House at the time. Later was known as the Power Building. And to the left of the brick structure, you can see the gable roof structure, which was the trolley car house or barn. And the trolleys ran from here to Southern Pines and through Pinehurst through 1905 about, and about 1907 they were abandoned. Hang on just one second. So I want to just point out a couple of things. I want you to look at this window, that door, the window here, another window, another door, window over here, and look at where the break in the building comes.
And I'll be honest with you, I cannot see your
Laser. Yeah.
your laser isn't
Can you
showing
see?
from this angle.
Yeah,
You may be able to see it, but
Oh,
I
okay.
cannot see so you may have to just walk up there and point.
You need to stay near the mic, or take the walking mic with you, Alan.
Thank you. Okay, so let's see if this will work. Now I can't see it.
You're going to have to use your finger.
Problem is it's
Yeah.
reflective.
Okay. So, there's a trolley house, trolley barn, and this was the first building that was built that was part of the powerhouse. And you can see that there's a window, a door, a window, and a break in the building, and a window, a door, and a window. And hello. And then sometime after that period, probably around, we're guessing it was right around 1900, you can see that there was an addition added to the side of this portion of the building. And this area was added, and you can see the arch-top windows, but still no main entrance door. And then after the trolleys, hello?
There you
Yeah.
go.
There you go, he'll do it.
Okay, here. The pointer doesn't work, the clicker doesn't work. Technology. So you can see that the trolley stopped running, they took down the trolley barn, and they added some offices off to the side of the building. And here, and again, you can see where the addition is. The brick is different. I mean, it's a black and white picture. You can still see that the color of the brick is different. It's a very distinct line there. And then the original door and window that were in the first part of this building were taken out, and this new opening was put in, which was the main entrance into the building. And then you can also notice over here, there's that circle or arch-topped opening, and you can begin to see the tracks, the railroad tracks that were put in for the coal car. So when the building was first started, it was operated with wood, and then it went to coal. And to get the coal to the building, Spur Road, which everybody knows, there was a railroad track that came around, and it actually was an elevated track at the building. The car was brought in and it was dumped down into the area below the tracks. You can also see here where, as the village grew, the power requirements grew. They had to do something more than just a power pole, so the structure was put up to support the wires and the lines that went out to the village. Next. So this is a great shot. Architecturally, as you look at it, it's just a wonderful, wonderful photograph of the building. You can very clearly see the tracks that come into the side of the building here. You can get a hint of where that arched opening was here. And you can see where this break was occurred, that there was an addition put onto the building here. And you can see also that this now has the new chimney. Just a great shot. Next. So as time went on, all that neat look over here starts to get obliterated by the overgrown landscaping. You can see the door is starting to get overgrown. The 2 pine trees that were out front died. They're gone. So the building operated right up through about mid-1990s. I think it was 95 or 96, something like that. And got a little more overgrown and a little more overgrown. And then at some point, it was shut down completely. The landscaping around it just overgrew the building. And so the next thing we saw, this is what we looked at for a long time. This is about all you could see of the building. Next. There's the overhead door it's on the east side of the building. We'll look at that a little more closely in a minute. You can begin to see where there's some concrete here underneath all that growth, which we'll look at again in a minute. Next. And that's the overhead door that is to the south side of the building and just to the right of the main entrance. And then the next shot will show you, there's the main entrance all overgrown. And the building looked like that up until just a short time ago when the resort went in and cleared all of the property around it, bush hogged all the shrubs and whatnot. And so today, you can see the next shot. And that's what you see when you go by the steam plant today. The front doors were taken out. The transom, the arch-top transom was taken out. They were salvaged. But you can see, and we'll look at this a little more closely, the windows are all boarded up, the door is boarded up. You can see the overhead door back here. There's one of the concrete pylons that supported the track years ago. You see the concrete wall there. You can see where the chimney was taken down. And the next shot, so a little more close-up view. Nice brick. I mean, it's a nice brick pattern. It's an interesting sort of a counterpoint to the brick on the rest of the building. But you can see that the windows are all boarded up. There's wire all over the side of the building and so on, and needs a lot of TLC. And then as we move to the right, again, you can see, interestingly enough, shows it very clearly, that when they took the door out, the window out way back when, they came in and they put a new brick arched opening in there. and you can see the different brick that they used. You can see the addition that was put over here. You can see the different color of that brick. There was some patching that went on over here, but generally speaking, you can still see some of the knob and tube insulators here from the days when it was a power plant, holes in the building all over the place. And then you can just barely see there's sort of an arched opening here. That, in the next photo, you'll see where that is an areaway that opens to a basement underneath part of the building. It's surprising, as open that as that is, that there is no apparent undermining of the foundation. It's surprising, actually. So for all intents and purposes, it's really not in that bad a shape. And you can see where the front wall is here. You can see the step in the wall and so forth. And then the next photograph, you can see where the original arched opening was bricked in, and they put this lovely overhead door in. And this area of the wall where there was an arched opening, you can still see the arched opening in the brickwork inside the building when you look toward the front wall. But outside, this is a poured-in-place concrete, it's like a large buttress, for lack of a better word. This side of the building apparently was in distress, structural distress, and this wall was poured, and we were pretty sure it was doweled to the original brick building to support that side of the building. You can see the two windows that were put in there, and we're going to take a look at what we propose to do there in a minute. And then as we go around the building, you can see the side. This is the east side of the building. So this is a duct that, now you remember I said that there was an extension to the building over here that we don't see anymore. It did not have this sort of iconic corbelling. Well, you can see the dowels here and so forth. We're pretty sure that this building was connected at one point to the chimney, and at some point it came down for whatever reason, and they put in this duct to connect from the building to the chimney. We're probably not going to be able to keep that, just FYI. And you can see the overhead door. There's an existing man door here. Now, one thing I didn't point out, but on the front of the building, on the south side, when you start to the left and work away right, there's double-hung windows, there's regular doors, everything's painted white and so forth. You get to this side of the building, and you'll notice all the windows are steel, single glazed, look totally different than the rest of the building. And then as we walk around the building to the back side, you can see here, these are the same kinds of windows. And then we go back to wood muttoned windows. Most of the windows, I think, were 6/6. You can see there's openings blocked up and so on. And so we haven't seen this side of the building for a long time until this was all cut down. In a short period of time, when the bamboo grows back up, we probably won't see it again. But there's just a lot of possibilities here with what we can do with the back of the building to clean it up and keep it relatively simple. But you can see where openings were closed up, more openings were closed up here. Several different types of brick on the building. This is the lowest point in the roof. So you can see there's a gutter along here that doesn't really drain too well anymore. There's a lot of deterioration in the brick. And if we look around to the next side, so this is the west side of the building. It faces Magnolia. And again, window was bricked up. This was kind of cool. There was an arched opening in here. Somebody decided they wanted a door here. So they bricked up the opening, put a small door opening here, and basically made it impossible for us to go back and use this larger opening effectively because it's been structurally I just saw something I hadn't seen before. Every time you go to the building, you see something you didn't see before. And again, so this is kind of what we're looking at from Magnolia. As we come over here, you can see that's blocked up. Here's the back side of the offices. All this black that you see on there, that's all hazardous material that has to come off. The siding is literally falling apart. You can almost just stick your hand through the wall. It's just in real bad shape. And then the next photo. So one of the things that's great about this building is the detailing around the frieze, let's call it, at the top of the building. All this corbelling. You don't see that much anymore today because it costs a lot of money to do that. It takes a lot of time and the labor is very intensive. So if nothing else, the building's worth saving for that alone. Next. And then there's this fellow. We're not quite certain what this was. They keep calling it a storage building or whatever. We really don't know. But the building is in real distress structurally. There's a tree actually growing inside somewhere, and it's going to be very, very difficult to try and save that. One thing that is interesting to note about it, the brick matches most of the brick. There's 6 or 7 different types of brick on the building, but this brick matches the base building's brick. So there's not much we can do about keeping that. It really needs to go relative to the plan. I think Perry will talk to that a little bit more in a minute. But the brick can be salvaged. We looked at it. We're going to salvage that brick, and we're going to be able to use it in the reconstruction of some of the parts of the building. And then on to Perry.
I've just got one question before you move on. The roof on that thing, is it a flat roof? Or it's, no, not on that, back on the main building? Or just a very low-grade roof? I mean, I was curious.
It's not really a flat roof. It does have pitch to it. And it falls from front to back all the way across both parts of the building.
Okay.
But it's
It'll be like a
not a
shed
pitch.
building, a shed roof.
Yeah, it's very shallow pitch, though.
Okay. I was just curious because you can't see what it is.
This is a map of Pinehurst from around 1925, and the dashed red line indicates rail lines that were going through the village. And you can see here, this is actually the spur, hence Spur Road, that ends at the steam plant. If you go to the next, please. This is the existing site as we have it now. We've got the steam plant in the center. It's a very oddly shaped piece of property. We've got Magnolia Road to the west. We've got an undeveloped piece of property to the north. We have the telephone utility along Magnolia to the south, and the Moore County water tanks are to the south as well. And to the west side is the Village of Pinehurst Public Works site. And there's a little sliver of land between the steam plant site and the Moore County site that is actually owned by the Village of Pinehurst. Now, part of what we're going to be doing with this project, and to be consistent with the thoroughfare plan of Pinehurst, is that this portion of the property will be dedicated to the Village of Pinehurst and combined with that, the existing village piece, to become a right-of-way. It will become a Village Street right-of-way that will, right now, it will be the Power Plant Road extension. So at some point in the future, that road would continue down and hook up to the Power Plant Road right-of-way that attaches to Community Road. We've got that outbuilding that Alan just talked about here, and I wanted to point out a large oak tree that if you've been to the site, you've seen that oak tree. If we get the next slide, please. Now, because we're dedicating a right-of-way and the design requirements of the village street and the dimensions required for the right-of-way, we're fitting that in between the steam plant and the Moore County property. And because of that alignment and getting the dimensional requirements, all that, we will need to take that building, that outbuilding. It's in the middle of what will be the street. And the that oak tree is also in the middle of the street. One of the problems with the oak tree is there are so many utilities under there because of the old steam lines, there's a spaghetti network of water lines underneath there coming from the water tanks that Moore County has used in the past and run. Some of them are active, some of them are not. It's part of the project that we are working with Moore County to figure out how to clean that up and simplify the system. But what it does mean is putting in the utilities, fixing those utilities, putting in the street and the storm drainage that will be required. We can't keep that tree. We'll be doing so much damage to the roots that there's no way we could really keep that tree. What we want to do, though, is use the wood from that tree, have it milled and kiln dried so that it can be actually used inside the building itself. The site plan itself is pretty simple. The main part really being the building and the building renovation. We do have the main entrance is the same entrance that Alan was showing in those old photographs. So we're keeping that in the same place. We have an event lawn on the west side along Magnolia Road. There's a beer garden underneath where the old rail line used to come in and deliver the coal. And then we've got a service area on the west side with some access to the kitchen and stuff going on along the north side, which is just a very narrow sliver of land between that and the adjacent property. And now I'd like, Alan, if you want to continue with the building?
Can I ask you a question about your site plan?
Sure.
You say that's a right-of-way, and it's also obviously a parking lot for the building. So will it be a patch-through for traffic, or just?
Well, part of the street section that we'll be doing for the village is a street section with on-street parking. And for now, this will be the extent of the road as it is shown. The extension of the road as it connects up with power plant has not been designed, either from a horizontal or a vertical alignment standpoint. So when it does extend, when the village does decide to extend that road, there will be some point of connection on this end. But how that exactly will be, I'm not sure. But we will already have the on-street parking, and what will probably happen is that they'll be restriped at that time to be angled instead of perpendicular. And we are maintaining access to the Moore County public utility site because that is one thing that we have to maintain.
So let's take a look at the plan a little more closely, just so you understand what it is that you'll be looking at when we look at the elevation. So if we go to the next slide, this is the preliminary floor plan. This is, can you see the shaded area? That show? Okay. So the shaded area is the existing footprint of the current building, and that the areas around it are added to it. So this is the covered terrace area. There's a planter along here and a water feature and a ramp down, access back into the building this way. As we come around, we're going to be entering the building here. There will be sloping walkways or ramps to take us down to the lower level. There's about a 3-foot drop between the floor elevation here and the floor elevation over here, and we will be able to access this area from inside. We'll be able to access from outside. You'll be able to access it from the front. And this is we're calling it the private beer garden. There'll be a small food and beverage area here, 2 new toilets down here, and then this is a smokehouse and a greenhouse. Chef is would like to grow his own herbs and so on here. And then as we work around the back of the building, you'll see there's a ramp that comes up. Again, that 3-foot difference in elevation, we've got to be able to get access into the kitchen. So we're adding a ramp here. We've got steps coming up here as well to have access into the kitchen. And any questions at this point? We understand how it works? Okay. So let's take a look. Let's walk around the building, and we'll look at the current condition of the building, and then we'll superimpose the proposed additions. So this is actually the southwest corner of the building. Magnolia's along here. You can see the front door of the building and so on. And hopefully, when we're all finished, we'll hit a button and it'll look a little bit like that. So I should point out a few things. So the windows are all going to be replaced. They're going to be replaced with windows to match. They will be aluminum-clad wood windows. They will be simulated true divided light, so no bars between the glass and that kind of thing. They'll look like pretty much the way the windows looked before. And that's true all along the front. And along the side here, you can see the access. This is the covered terrace area. You can see the barrels here. So the water feature is a series of wooden barrels, beer barrels, little small ones. And each one of them will be dumping water into a trough along here to provide some white noise to the outside terrace area. And then if we look at the next slide, sure.
I got a question. That one there, on the roof, are those solar panels?
No, these are,
Sunlight,
that's a good question. We're going to get into that. So they're what are we calling them now?
lights?
No, well, it's cow wall, but cow wall, what's cow wall? It's a translucent insulating, it's about a 3-inch thick panel, and it's a roofing panel, essentially. So these are individual panels that are 5 feet wide, they're 3 inches thick, and they're translucent. They're not transparent, so it's not like a skylight where you're looking at. Why are we putting them there? Why are we proposing it? Good question. So we want to bring some natural light into the building as best we can. If you've been inside the building, it's a dark building. Well, okay, everything's boarded up, but it's still a dark building. So we're proposing to provide a sort of a filtered light. This is the west side, so we've got to be a little bit concerned about the west, the afternoon sun and so forth. So this will allow a filtered light. It has insulation value and so on. The porch is open, so we'll have fans and radiant heat and so on out there, so it can be used year-round. But we still need to bring light into the building. And so to control that west sun, we're proposing that we use the cow wall as a roof panel. And it's kind of neat. It centers up on so you see the raised parapet, that's the existing wall. And we're centering it on that part of the building. And it'll look like it makes sense to the original structure.
So they're thicker, then they're going to stick up above the roof line, though? Is that?
3 inches, 4 inches,
But that's
something like that.
okay.
It is the roof. I mean, it is the roof.
Yeah, it is essentially it's the roof, right?
Raised roof, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's kind of translucent. Okay.
Yeah.
And while we're on that picture, let's talk about the brick.
Sure.
Because in all the pictures, the brick looks very consistent.
Well, so if you notice, there's a subtle change here. It's a little browner than this. So this is all the existing brick. All right, to make a distinction of exactly where that change occurs and so on as part of the existing is a little difficult with the SketchUp models that we're doing. But for instance, and we'll talk about this in a minute, this is a small enclosure. Remember that areaway it's open to the basement and so on? Well, we want to enclose that somehow, and we want to do it as discreetly as we can. So we're proposing to enclose it with just a simple shed roof enclosure. And remember the brick on the little shack that we're taking down? We're going to reuse that brick. So the intent is that the brick on this little addition will match the rest of the building on the front side. We don't have enough brick to do everything, and we don't want to, if we try and match the brick, which brick are we going to match? Is it going to be this one or that? So they're all different colors. What we were hoping to do was to use a brick that is compatible with the rest of the building, perhaps a little bit darker, sort of medium brown color actually, so that it's very obvious where the addition occurred. We don't want it to look like it was part of the original building. There's just no way we can make that happen. So if it's going to be different, let's make it a little different so that the existing building it's very clear. Anyone who goes inside here and sees the openings that we're cutting in the wall and so on, that existing brick will be there. So it'd be very easy for someone to figure out where the existing building started and stopped. That makes sense?
In an earlier photograph, how some of the brick, you have patches here, there, and yonder. To me, that's some of the character of the building, and these little patches. Are you going to try to
No.
fix those, or just
No.
leave them there?
No, they're going to stay just the way they are. All we're going to, I should say, that what we're planning to do to the outside of the building is to clean it up. And we have to repoint the mortar and that sort of thing. We've got to be very careful about how we repoint it. It has to be a tinted mortar that matches as close as we can to the existing. I mean, we don't want that to stand out like new mortar. But the intent is to keep the existing building, the existing brick, as much the way it is as possible. So the next...
I ask this sooner or later. I may as well ask you now. Are you going to rebuild the chimney? In the previous picture,
Well, that's a good question. Our plan is to not rebuild it as high as it was, but we do want to extend the one that's there. We'd like to go up 30 or 40 feet, but I'm going to be perfectly honest, there are issues with the structure of the existing foundation. We would prefer, if it's a problem, to go up with a chimney. We think we can probably go up at least 20 feet. I don't think that's going to be a problem. It's getting up higher than that that's going to be the issue. The structural engineers looked at it, and we're a little nervous. We have to do a little bit more investigation to make sure that we can go up that high, but we are looking into it, and we are assuming, at this point at least, that we're going to be able to do that. And it's what everybody wants to see that back. It won't be as high as the original one. The original one, I think it was 120 or 25 feet, something like that. It
I
wouldn't
recall it
make
was
sense to
taken
do
down
that.
mainly for safety reasons, that there was a feeling it was going to fall down.
It was deteriorating, yeah. And that's part of so the base is, it's up for grabs at the moment, but we are working at it pretty hard. So you're going to see it in the renderings. We're going to think positive about it. Okay, so we've looked at that. So you remember that photograph that's sort of the same perspective with the railroad tracks? What did that look like on the other building? A trellis, maybe? So what happens if we put a trellis over the beer garden and use the existing pylons, concrete pylons, to help support that and keep it all at the same level and pick up that same feel? And so we have a steel beam supporting wood trellis members. They'll look like the typical wooden track. And then there will be a covering over this, but it'll be a clear Lexan material, so you'll be able to look up through it. But it will provide some screening from the rain and so forth. And along the edge, there'll be a gutter that'll be the color of a railroad track. So we'll be able to pick up the illusion, at least, of the old track that was there. Later on, you'll see that superimposed over that old image. So you can see, again, windows, there's the addition here. So when we get down to here, you can see this arched opening. Well, you remember that arched opening that had been enclosed and the overhead door was in there? Well, we've taken a pretty close look at that, and we've determined that we can take the brick that was infilled underneath that arch out and go back and put that arched opening in. And so we need to have some cover over this area, so we're simply bringing out a roof that will match the arched opening, and we're going to infill the arched opening with glass. And you can see the streetscape, there's a fence along here and so on. There's going to be a significant drop, and I say significant, it's about 2.5, 3 feet from the street side and the walk at the street level to the beer garden, and we want to create a street scene, if you will, using a black aluminum fence, I'm sure. And you can see the chimney sticking up there. Next. So here we're looking at this, and here's the old tree. So let me just say one thing about that. Perry mentioned about we're going to harvest the tree and reuse. We've already talked to 2 people we've already, we know who we want to use. We don't have an agreement with them yet, but we've already talked about how we want it milled and how long it's going to take to cure and dry. And anyway, we're working that pretty hard. So that we're going to hopefully harvest that tree and use the lumber from it on inside, and maybe I'd love to use it for the trellis members outside too. We'll see about that. So at some point, that elevation will look like this. So again, you see the street scene. You get a good feel for what we're doing with the trellis. And you'll notice, and I'll get to this in a minute, but you'll notice the beam is sort of a rusty color. The beam, column supports, and so on, and we're articulating them a little bit. We're doing something a little decorative with them. They'll all be steel, and it'll be what's referred to as Core 10. It's a weathering steel, basically. And I'll explain a little bit more about that, but it turns this really nice, warm, reddish-brown color, tie in very nicely with the old brick on that building. You can kind of look through and see, here's the smokehouse. You can see the greenhouse back here. There are the toilet rooms, which are tucked in on the back side of the back pylon. And next. So let's look at the beer garden. Gives you a little better feel. So you can kind of see how you'll be walking along here. The walkway and the drive will drop off as it goes back toward the east. You can see the retaining wall with the fence on it. You see steps that will lead you down into the beer garden. We probably won't use folding chairs, but for now. You can see we're doing some Core 10 detailing. You can see the bar area and the F&B area and so forth. And then you'll notice the concrete wall has sort of gone away, and we're showing green there. So we've tried to see if we can't take that concrete wall down. Structural engineer said, find another structural engineer. We are able to take the wall out underneath the two windows. Remember the two high-up windows? We can take the wall out underneath that and put glass in there so that when you're out in the beer garden, you'll be able to look in and see the brew house with the fermenting tanks and so forth. But we're going to cover that wall or have something grow on that wall, turn it green. And basically the concrete will go away, add a wonderful feel to the what are we planning for? Creeping fig. Yeah, we were hoping maybe we could get hops to grow up the wall, but it won't do well. Yeah, I know, but no way? Yeah, okay. It was a good idea. Okay, next. Any questions about any of this so far? Okay. So this end of the building, and we hit the button. And this is looking at the far end of the private garden. You can see the end of the smokehouse, the chimney, and so forth. Again, you can see how the retaining wall will come around, and it creates an enclosure for the beer garden. And next is the end of the building. And once again, this is the toilet room. It's just sort of a buttress at the end of the... If you notice on the photograph, I'll show you in a minute. If you notice on that old photograph, at the very end of what you can see of the tracks, there is a small building down there with a door in it. So this kind of replicates the feel of that. And you can see the smokehouse and so forth. Trash has got to go somewhere, folks. But it'll be built out of brick. And then next, my favorite side of the building. And so all of the existing steel windows are going to be refurbished and reused. We're not ripping them out and putting anything new. We've looked at it pretty closely. The contractor feels pretty confident that we're going to be able to do that. The brew house, which is this section, will not be heated and cooled. Typically, they're not heated and cooled. and it'll be closed off from the rest of the building, which will be heated and cooled. So we're not as worried or as concerned about having thermopane, so we can do single glazed replacement glass in the old frames. And so this is where the duct tied into the chimney. And we talked a lot about, should we put windows in here, or put a window in here to match the other windows? And we finally just said, it's a hole in the wall. Let's put a piece of glass in it and let it be a hole in the wall. And again, there'll be a story of that somewhere inside the building. Here's the ramp. You can see the ramp that's going up to the back, to the kitchen. We're going to protect the ramp with an awning. If you picture Market Square and all the black awnings along there, it's exactly the same look. Next. So this is Magnolia's side. That's what we'll be seeing from Magnolia. I want to point out that even though we're using a little different color brick here, we're introducing a detail at the top, and sort of a frieze, that sort of picks up the lower portion of the original frieze. We're not trying to copy it necessarily, we just want to make a nod to that somewhere in the building. So again, our hope is that we're going to have enough brick to use the brick from the little storage shed to infill that in with the brown brick so it sticks out a little bit. The overhead doors at the bar, so you'll be able to sit at the outside on the terrace, sit at the bar. Again, you can see it's a metal roof. And then next, so this is that old picture. It's hard to see. Right down here at the end, there's a structure with a door in it, and that was kind of the inspiration for putting that little building down at the end. And then hopefully about a year from now, it'll look like that. So materials. We've talked about it a little bit, but the next slide will. So this is core 10. That's kind of the color it gets. When it goes up, it's not that color. It's a weathering material, so it has to weather a while. It's going to take a few months for that to happen. It could take up to a year to get to the color we actually want it to get to. But once it gets to that point, it pretty much stays that way. And that product creates a seal around the steel. So you look at it and go, is it rusting? And it's not. It's actually a protective coating. And it regenerates itself all the time because of the steel. It's neat stuff. It was first used back in 1964, I think, so it's been around a long time. And so here's the brick on the existing building. That's a terrible picture, but that's we have a sample of it here. That's that light brown or light tan brick that we're going to be using on the rest of the building. Overhead door, it's a standard aluminum overhead door with glass in it, be large glass panels like that. We'll be using that at the bar and also on the back side of the building on the east side. That's a cow wall structure. The black brick we have a sample of. We're painting all the fascias and rakes to match the core 10. And then the next photo, so here you can see the profile of the roof. This is a roof you can see on buildings all over Pinehurst. It'll be a galvalume roof. Again, a number of buildings in Old Town have that same exact roof. The windows will be white. And so the trellis areas, the trellis pieces will be wood. They'll be stained about that color. And I say about that color because the color is just not great on this. And then the trim for the toilets and the smoker room and so forth. There's some wood siding on the smoker room too that will have that same stain color.
On the metal roofing there, the galvaline, Is that visible from the ground?
Yeah, you'll see it on the side of the building, yeah. I mean, on the, so this is the roofing that's on the, over the covered porch area to the back side, next to the cow wall. Yeah. Here, it's used there, it's on that, the little addition on the front that encloses the areaway. Pardon? Yeah. I mean, we can talk about that. And then the windows, of course, would be
Why
white.
did you choose that look as opposed to a muted color?
Well, I mean, it's, so when it, remember that roof that's on the little hut? Little shack? That's the finish on that roof. It's hard to tell now because it's rusted, but that was the finish on it. And then there are a number of buildings around that have the same basic material, as far as I know. This will eventually, it weathers a bit, and gets a certain patina to it. And I think there are 2 buildings on Market Square that have that finish. Of course, they've been on there a long time, so they've weathered a bit.
I understand what weathered barns look like, but the weathering is usually rust.
Well, not on this, not with the Galvalo. And so, we have to hit another button. And you can hit another button. And one more button. PowerPoint. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
You have more?
Microphones.
Well, does the commissioners have any questions or comments?
Yeah, where do we go from here?
The comments are outstanding work,
Yeah, oh, it
It's
is.
just amazing, beautiful. And our guidelines do allow for a 10, so.
You going
I have one question. In the front elevation, it seems like the whole building is parapet and low slope. Why you didn't choose to do a parapet on that southwest view, like a brick with arches or something instead of because it seems like it doesn't match the rest of it as much.
The sloping roof over the...
Yeah, over like just putting a parapet in front of a sloping roof, so you don't see it so much.
We're basically trying to soften that side of the building. It's a very harsh, stark look. And I suppose we could put something there, a parapet, but for the shading that we want, that overhang that you see on the opening extends out about 3.5 feet. It'd be tough to do that. It's a west face. It'd be tough to do that with a parapet.
Just kind of need to move your microphone back a little bit, too. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Audience? I hear a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to speak? You need to come to the microphone. You're going to come to the tall one. Would you state your name, please? My name is Heidi Hall. Would you raise your right hand? Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to this commission is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Go ahead.
Can we hear her on the recording?
It's on.
Again, I'm not sure it's on, that's why I was asking.
Goes out after a while.
Hand her a mic.
This is easier.
Can you hear? Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Should hold it out a little bit. There we go.
Restate your name again so we can
It's
have it.
Heidi Hall Jones.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm the adjacent property owner to the steam plant. the Punch Jones property. And I have to tell you, it's a fantastic presentation that you made. I have an interior design background, and I actually restored a 1935 gas station in Florida. So I have a fondness and weakness for adaptive and readaptive use of buildings. I actually grew up in Pinehurst, so I remember it way back in the day. I'm not going to say how old I am. So I'm thrilled with what you're doing. I think the approach that you've taken is really inspired. So I wanted to pass that along to the committee.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks.
You know, we always have to have facts, so we'll take it as a fact that you like it. Okay. Do I hear any other comments from the audience? Would someone like to make a motion?
I think we're going to have to talk about this one to get through this motion, other than somebody just reading through it. There's a lot of complexity to this.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, just to go through this and try to do it, unless somebody's think they have it figured out, I think we're just discuss each point as we go through and figure out what we have probably is a much better answer, because there's a lot of twists and turns to this in relationship to our.
Are you saying you're going to make a motion?
I'll lead the discussion and the work on it, yes, but I think I would like to go through it one item at a time and make sure that we're all in agreement on each item. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, we only have two things to approve. One is the modifications to the building, and the other is the demolition of the smaller structure. So we basically have two votes to make on, or those both need to be incorporated, okay?
Right. And they're both listed on our worksheet, so
Go for it,
should
yeah.
be good. Okay. Do it. Can I borrow your initial sheet? I move that we conclude that the proposed project, case number 17-045, if constructed according to approved plans, is not incongruous with the character of the Pinehurst Historical District based on the following findings of fact. As to section 1641 and 7, this request is considered to be major work, which involves new additions that are not considered minor work, and minor work items that were not approved by the village planner. As to section 2421, the proposed new window and door openings will be visible from the street. Section 2422, the proposed windows and doors for the building will not retain the original size and dimension, although many of them will. Some of them are different sizes and dimension. And please feel free to stop me if anybody sees something that.
I think they're pretty similar to the original. I don't think they
Okay.
will not.
So we'll change that then. Will. So the proposed windows and doors for the buildings will retain the original size and dimension. Section 2423, the panes, mullins, buttons, and all hardware for the proposed windows and doors will be the same or similar to those of the original windows. 2424, the trim of the proposed windows and doors will match the original trim.
By the way, you don't have to cite the number.
Okay.
If you don't.
The proposed additions will be incongruous,
No,
will not be inconspicuous, and will not all be on the rear elevation. The proposed additions will be of similar scale, color, materials, character as the existing building, as much as we can. The roof lines of the proposed additions will blend with the original building. The windows in the proposed addition will be similar to those in the original building. The proposed additions will not be taller than the original building, The proposed additions will have foundations and eaves that generally align with the existing building. The proposed additions do maintain consistent architectural features on all four sides of the building. The openings of the proposed addition will be in an ordered rhythm. The proposed additions will be of similar scale, color, materials, character as the existing building. The proposed metal roofing is not earth tone in hue. The proposed metal roof is corrugated.
Is that true? Is that correct?
Wrestle with this a little bit. So the roof
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a good question. We wrestled with that a bit. The roof that's on the little small storage building
Yeah.
is a corrugated, what people generally refer to as a corrugated roof. But any of the roofs that have this sort of thing and go like, similar to what we're talking about using, you can see the profile at the bottom. That technically is still a corrugated roof, but it's generally referred to as a, it says on there, it's a ribbed roof. So you're right. This has been pretty well accepted throughout Pinehurst as a rib roof. Well, I mean, it's
I'm not arguing your point
no,
at
no.
all, I understand.
But I think the intent is that the scalloped roof or corrugated roof that you think of, that most people think of, is what you're not looking for. So we did consider that for a while, but
I want to get that clarified. Thank you.
So it is or is not? Is not corrugated. Is that?
As far as the intent of the ordinance, I would say it's not corrugated.
I'm going to read that again, and this is the way the motion should read. The proposed metal roof is not corrugated. The proposed construction will minimize the impact of existing, will minimize the impact of existing mature trees to the extent possible. I can put that at the end of it, I guess.
Okay.
We understand that there will be the one large oak that will be coming down. The proposed trellis will be congruous with the architecture of the structure. The proposed street lighting is compatible with the character of the district, because I think I saw in there that you were putting in the same street lighting as that's throughout the rest of the street.
That's correct, yeah.
The proposed colors for the additions are appropriate for the historic building and district and are in the Village of Pinehurst color palette. The proposed awning will be canvas. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. The proposed awning color will be compatible with the building and is in the Village of Pinehurst color palette. What color did we say it was going to be?
Black. So if the best example I can give you is if you walk down Market Square, there's all those black awnings.
I just couldn't remember what color you said.
I think you said it correctly.
Okay. I think I'll leave that one the same then. The proposed brick will be compatible with the architecture in the neighborhood. The proposed fence is compatible with the architecture of the structure on the property. The proposed fence is not taller than 6 feet. Is that correct?
It's not taller.
The proposed fence will be screened by native landscape on sides visible from the street. You showed that in your drawing. The proposed fence will be stained, painted, or have a clear finish coating. The proposed new greenhouse smoker will be in the rear and in a traditional relationship to the main building. The proposed new greenhouse slant smoker will use traditional roof forms, materials, and details compatible with the main building. Now we're going to move into the demolition portion of what our chairman talked about. Retaining or preserving the carriage house, garage, or outbuilding is not feasible, whatever you want to call that thing. The structure does not contribute to the historic character of the village of Pinehurst in a significant way.
I want to make a note. We looked for photographs that had that little building and we couldn't find anything.
That's why,
I don't know when it was.
that's why I said what I did on the last statement.
Okay, go ahead.
And therefore, that the Historic Preservation Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness approving the proposal as shown in the approved plans, subject to the following, well, with no conditions, subject.
Here a second? Got a motion from Tom and a second from Christine. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No one's opposed, unanimous. Your COA is approved.
And it,
Thank you very much.
and it really is
And now we
inspiring.
can say,
is.
congratulations, it's
start?
fantastic that they haven't, that building repurposed is the word I'm using.
Right,
You can call it
repurposed.
restoration.
And it is
Repurposed.
amazing the work that went into that,
Yeah.
to get to this point.
Well,
It's
I've been
absolutely
in the building not too long ago, and I understand the challenge and the cost associated with this project. And I'm proud of the resort for stepping up because it's going to cost some serious money. I know that.
I think it'll be seriously worth it.
I don't know.
Well, they got to pay you for, and Betsy for starters, and Perry. One thing I want to ask you, this is off the record, is I'm sure you must be considering, yeah.
Finish the meeting.
Huh?
Finish the meeting, then you can.
Do you want to adjourn the meeting?
Okay, don't go away. Any other business? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Got a motion over here and a second over here, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.